Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. I'm Matt Connarton, and apparently the Honorable Gary S. Hopper has once again proven that he is, in fact, a shapeshifter and has turned himself into Al Baldasaro this week.
Well, you need a good-looking guy from Londonderry to come in and take Gary's spot, and he's
We're always
going to be missed.
We're always saying that, yeah. That's what our demographic
He does
research
a great
shows.
job. I love Gary. Man.
I do, too.
I hope his operation, his arm's working, he'll be back on the dance floor.
He can't rotate his cuff.
Yeah, I hate when that happens.
I know.
But Gary's a tough old son of a gun. He can handle it.
He's going to be watching this. That's going to go right to his head.
Oh, he can see this now? I hope you don't think he's getting replaced, because I have my own show in Londonderry. I just thought I'd come in and help out my friend Gary.
You do a show in Londonderry?
I do a show. It's called Who's Looking Out for You in Londonderry, and then I also co-host a show with a Democrat in Nashua with Representative Ken Gidge, and that's called The Art of Politics.
I had no idea you do all this stuff.
Oh, I get him heavy involved. I want to make sure that we people know what's going on.
Yeah. Well, it's the broadcaster in me that's impressed.
Well, that's it. You know, I'm not a politician.
Right.
I'm one of them tell it like it is guys. And, if you don't like what I say, don't vote for me then. I'm sorry.
Right. You are a straight shooter, yeah.
But, we got a special guest, I understand.
Yes.
I'm honored to be here with her today. You going to introduce, or you want me to?
Why don't you do it? Gary usually introduces the guest.
Does he? Okay.
Yeah, that's the flow. We go left to right. I introduce Gary. Gary introduces the guest.
What's that game show like when you call a friend? I should have called Gary Hopper and said, Gary, should I introduce? I should not. But anyways, I am honored to introduce a state representative, first term, Representative Jane Cormier. I served with her in the House, and I should say I proudly served with her in the House, because when she came on board her first term, what an example she made fighting for the people of her district. I was so impressed because the first week she got up to the mic. Many people wait for their first or second district, term. I said, wow, she's like a clone of Al Baldasaro. She got right up there. Jane, welcome.
Welcome. Oh, thank you.
No offense, Al, but she is prettier.
She is prettier?
She is prettier.
Well, I won't knock that one there. I also met her husband there, and he's the other half, and he's a nice guy.
And he probably agrees that she's prettier.
He agrees too. So, Jane, what have you been doing with yourself?
Oh, it's been exciting. I'm running for state senate. Don't you know?
I know, and I'm proud of that.
Yeah, well, we have quite a battle in front of us.
Who are you running against?
I'm running against Senator David Booten.
Ooh, I got some stories about him, Jane. Let's
District 16, and those are the communities of Bow, Candia, Dunbarton, Hooksett, and 1, 2, and 12 of Manchester. Wow. So it's a considerably large district, and my job is to make sure that I'm knocking on as many doors as I can and calling and meeting people, and we've been doing that for about 6 weeks now, and it's been a big, busy 6 weeks.
Jane, there's no doubt in my mind when you take the hill, you're going to take the hill. Well, let me tell you, I served with the senator that you're running against. Nice guy, but I'm not too impressed with his politics. I mean, I can't understand, from the gas tax, the Medicaid expansion, to screwing over the veterans here in New Hampshire. I'm disgusted. I'll get into that in a few minutes. Yeah. But why do you want to run?
Well, when my husband and I had a business here in Manchester for 14 years of music studio. We taught voice, piano, music. Yeah,
she's quite the singer.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah.
Maybe she can give you a quick.
My! No.
He's unbelievable. I'll tell you.
Because my husband and I were opera singers, and so we've lived in different countries, and that's been our business. My husband teaches in the public school sector, and I teach in the private school sector. So we're educators, and decided that the drive from Alton to Manchester was just we'd had enough. And we've moved to Hooksett, and when we looked around and I started to see where the representation was, because I still wanted to be active in the political arena, when I saw that Senator David Booten was in this district, I looked at the record, and I have to say I was quite disappointed and decided that I was going to try to take that hill. So here we are, putting everything out there, and for me, really the most important 3 votes that disappointed me were the votes for the gas tax, the vote against right to workforce freedom here in New Hampshire, and of course the other, the big one for Medicaid expansion. Now, for me, those issues were important because they're huge planks of the Republican platform. Those are the platform is what differentiates us from the Democrats.
But you know something? Put that platform aside.
Yeah.
How about let's talk about the voters, the taxpayers' pockets.
Absolutely.
What that 4.2 cent did to them.
And what it is doing to them. And when I'm knocking doors, man, are they noticing this? You know, and in fact, I think it's really rather been enlightening when I'm speaking with voters and we're talking about what the voting record's been. I think a lot of the constituency just did not know. They assumed that, you know, Republicans tend to be better on fiscal issues than Democrats. That's just a fact. You know, we were a little bit more fiscally conservative, and I think that they assumed that because it was a Republican and they were voting Republican, that it was a fiscally conservative vote, and it just is not.
Yeah, people don't necessarily investigate the records of people, and they just assume based on party affiliation because it's easier.
Right? Well, yeah, it is.
You know, one thing a lot of people don't realize, Matt, and Jane is aware of this, and we went to the floor. In 2010, the Democrats took $38 million from the gas tax. They cipher off probably, I don't know, I think 28% of the gas tax into fish and game, conservation, into state trooper, into the police department, the police academy. I mean, that's not right. I would support a gas tax if the need was there. Stop siphoning. We even put an amendment in on this gas tax, and we try to say 100% of the money we have now will go to the gas tax.
Exactly.
And it failed.
Yeah.
And Senator Booton supported that gas tax. I was so disgusted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't in any way, shape, or form. The gas tax really hoodwinked and is hoodwinking people. When you go up and you talk to them about the gas tax, they will always say, well, our roads and bridges need it. And you know what? Our roads and bridges do need it, but they need it because for so many years, politicians and bureaucrats have taken the money out of that fund to use it for whatever pet project or need that they had in the general fund.
Right.
That's happened through both administrations. This is not really a political right or left thing.
It's not a partisan thing.
We try to fix it, the
we
Republicans.
Did, absolutely, and did it like thoughtfully, amendment after amendment and fight after fight on the floor. And we did lobby our senators to try to be that firewall to say no to this tax, because ultimately, here's the bottom line. That was a dedicated fund. That's what the folks don't know. The first highway fund, when you could take 38 or 45 million out of it to do whatever you deem, whoever the powers are that deem we need it, take it away from the roads and bridges. Yeah, there is a need, but it was a dedicated fund. There was no integrity taking that money out. Well, now what do we have? We have another dedicated fund. It's dedicated, so it's really, this time, honest, it's really going to go, well, that's insanity. That is the actual definition of insanity. When you continue to do things and you get the same reaction and it's a bad one, stop doing it.
You know something, not only is it a dedicated fund, but maybe David Booton needs to get a copy of the New Hampshire Constitution and look in there and see that per our Constitution, that the gas tax goes to the safety and the maintenance of the roads.
Right.
That's where it's supposed to be.
Right.
Not divvied up and go in other directions.
Right. And so to throw more money, to take more money out of the taxpayers' pockets, out of businesses' pockets, and to say that we need it for the roads, let's just plug the holes in the first one and we wouldn't have needed the second one, and we could have fixed the roads. Because the truth is, what this new tax is going to bring in was less than the $38 million that was taken out last session.
Oh, really? Okay.
Plug it up.
Right.
Use it for what you're supposed to. See, there's no integrity in that. That is not telling the voters and the taxpayer the truth.
Yeah. Well, that's typical, though, in government, right? I mean, these funds and whatever, nothing ever goes where it's supposed to.
Right. This one, though, is a 23% increase.
Yeah.
So
that's huge.
It is in the big picture. It is.
No reason for that. Do you know all the red listed bridges that they're talking about? They put all these out there to everybody. These are because we're not complying with federal law. When federal changes their law, that means we have to put these Jersey barriers out, or we have to do certain things to our bridges, or because we have small roads and they're not wide enough, they don't comply with federal law. They're red listed.
Yes.
That's a bunch of BS.
Right.
I disagree there.
So it might not be as much of a safety issue as it is just big government, any government coming in again and telling you how you have to live.
If you read the study that was brought up to us, New Hampshire is one of the best states in the country for their roads.
Really?
Isn't that interesting? Wow.
That's right.
Okay.
So, I disagree with a lot of that.
Yeah, I agree with that. The federal government probably in states' issues, problems and challenges that we face, I wonder how many of them would dissipate if the federal government
Did Senator Booton co-sponsor that bill? I thought he did.
Yes, yes, it was the gas tax.
Yeah,
That's
he
right.
Co-sponsored that. That's right.
Right.
That's a shame. With a Democrat and a Republican that
and
sponsored.
A couple
also.
of others, I think, were on there too. It was a team deal.
Oh, that's a shame.
Were there a number of Republicans that voted for the gas tax?
About 3 or 4.
Yeah,
that went with them.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know my senator stood her ground, Senator Sharon Carson.
Good for her.
I was proud of her. She didn't vote for it.
Yeah.
Medicaid expansion.
Yes.
Didn't he support that?
He did. And you know what? That one was really, for me, a sad passing of that bill. Having been to all of the hearings that they had on it and spoken against that expansion, speaking out against that expansion, unfortunately, what it has done is said that it solved the issue of these people that had problems getting insured, right, have no insurance, and put them into a pool where supposedly the federal government's going to pay. Well, that always works out well. We can always count on that. So that's the first thing. But secondly, really, when you look at the integrity of that decision, the outcomes of medical outcomes on for folks on Medicaid are lower than those that have no insurance at all.
That's interesting.
Look at that. That's a fact, and that's a federal fact, not just a state fact. So we're putting people into the Medicaid system, knowing full well that the medical outcomes for these folks are less good than those that have no insurance. What great thing have we done?
In what regard? Is there a higher mortality rate, or how do they measure that?
Yes, they don't do better in treatment.
Okay.
They get lower rates of survival for illnesses that they might have.
Wow.
It in no way helps these folks that need the insurance to have better health care, right?
That's interesting.
Rather than do the hard work, because let's face it, it's slogging kind of work to sit down in there and say, okay, we have this many people that we've verified need a safety net.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay, right? Safety net, I'm okay with. But to then change the definition of what Medicaid was supposed to be, which was a physical challenge, disability, plus a financial one. Now they've taken away the physical one here in New Hampshire and just used the financial one. I think it's like 100 and some odd percent.
28, that's 30%.
Yeah, 120 something or whatever percent of income.
But you can own a home.
Yes.
You can own cars.
Assets.
You can have anything, right? But you just you have to be at a certain level of money coming in.
That's right. So you don't have any generated income coming in, but that does not include what you might have in a home, boats, investments, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So you could have the money to be able to pay for your own, don't have a working income, and still qualify for Medicaid in New Hampshire.
Well, that's a hook,
Not
line,
good.
and sinker there. I mean, they reeled us right in on that.
Yeah.
And the Republican senators like Booton supported that. And the reason why I say, it really gets me, I'm going to throw some grenades here, okay?
Well, you're on the right show.
That's right, I'm on the right show. And because right now, it's 100% for 3 years. Now, Washington, the Congress are already looking at cutting that back.
Absolutely.
In 3 years, they say it's going to go to 90.
Yeah.
Then it's going to go down even more. Since when does the government ever fulfill
They don't.
their mandates?
And during this discussion, those numbers were talked about because there was already federal talk about cutting states, the money going to states for this Medicaid expansion while we were talking about the bill. We were just saying this is what is being talked about on the Hill, and we're still going to go through with this. Why can't we wait? The wait in politics is the thing that does us in the most. From what I've seen in the little 2 years I've had here, we had the same thing with the buffer zone bill, right? While it's in the Supreme Court, they were arguing the whole thing in the Supreme Court, whether or not it was lawful to have the buffer zone. Right,
for abortion clinics.
Correct.
Right.
Did Senator Booton vote for that too?
No, he ultimately, I remember sitting in front of the Judiciary Committee twice and just almost pounding the desk here saying, the insanity here is, why are you rushing to do this? Let's wait. It's going to be out in as soon, the decision will be out in a matter of weeks.
Yeah.
If it comes out unconstitutional, we saved ourselves a lawsuit. But if we push this through, which is what we did, and it is unconstitutional, and now we have a lawsuit facing New Hampshire, again and again and again, we said, can't we just wait?
Why do you think that happens? Do you think it's just kind of the nature of politics?
Because it looks good.
No one wants to look like they're not doing something.
Bill.
Yeah.
You know, and it's steps on the First Amendment or the right to rally or any. I mean, what a disgrace!
It was terrible. There was so many bad parts of that bill. It was just not written well, and it had holes in it like you couldn't believe.
Isn't there already an existing law that that predates the buffer zone that says you can't harass people?
There is.
Yeah, they have.
That's right.
There's statutes and stuff on books that, and we've never had an issue in New Hampshire.
Right.
There's just never been a crime in New Hampshire with that kind of thing at an abortion clinic.
So it becomes a solution in search of a problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which is also the nature of politics.
Just wait. And the Medicaid expansion was the same thing for me. Just wait. We
Yeah.
have all these states now tapping in. Of course, we had smart states that today are really glad they didn't do it because of the new things that have been happening in the past weeks with Obamacare. All right? But we said, wait. Why can't we wait and see how the other states do before we charge in and put New Hampshire on the rolls?
They didn't want to do that. This is election year. They thought they were doing the right thing.
It was going to look good.
And I believe the polls are showing like 78% of New Hampshire residents do not want Medicaid expansion.
Right. It was not a good way to do it. We could do better. We should expect our public servants, when you are chosen to serve, right? That's not anybody's seat. It doesn't belong to Senator Booten. If I win, it doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the people, and our job is to get the work done while we're sitting there. And it's not easy, and it's hard, but let's get the facts together, let's get a pool of people, and let's bang out a sensible solution that actually solves the problem of those in need.
Right.
It can be done. Why aren't we doing it?
Right.
I'm gonna throw you a few more grenades here. Why I'm so glad that you're running. Because you were always there supporting veterans. Now, for anyone that's watching that don't know, I'm a 22-year retired U.S. Marine. I was a Democrat before I became a veteran.
Oh, I didn't
Then
know
I was
that.
a veteran before I became a Republican.
Huh?
So I've been fortunate to be on the Veterans Affairs Committee for 8 years, and I'm the former chairman. Now, 3 years ago, when I was the chairman, veterans came to me, National Guard, and said they were losing their property tax.
Yes.
Which was $500 a month.
A
year.
credit, right?
Property tax credit.
Yes.
It was a $500 deduction,
Yeah.
depending on what city or town. But anyway, make a long story short, I put an amendment in to fix it, and I put it on a bill that we were working on a hospital bill. It passed the House. When it went to the Senate, Booten held it up. It went to a committee of conference. He was determined on a honor and remember flag that he wanted passed that most of the veteran community throughout the country do not support. Okay, a feel-good flag.
Right.
He was pushing his flag. He let the bill die in committee of conference, and 4,200 veterans lost their state property tax. Wow. Now, I fixed it last year.
Good.
Okay, whereas this year now they're back on there, the 4,200. But now, what else did he do? We had another bill, a study committee, because we have a lot of Bronze Star veterans and Silver Star veterans. Now, here we go again. Booten puts in his honor and remember flag bill again. Knowing that the State Veterans Advisory Committee and my committee of veterans do not support it, the House voted it down, we killed it. He added an amendment on another bill, and he killed the study committee for the Veterans Plate bill just so he could try to get his way, and we would not bend. I'm telling you right now, for veterans that are watching this here, Representative Cormier has always been there for you. Representative Booten, he stuck it to the veterans the last 2-3 years, and it's a disgrace. And I personally like the guy, but I have no use for anyone that has no respect for veteran community.
Wow.
I wanted you to know that.
You know, I knew some of that, but I didn't quite know the whole thing in detail, and that's not a good thing.
No.
I mean,
I can go on another area. Because, you know, here in New Hampshire, the veterans have we don't have a full-service hospital.
Yes.
We submit a House resolution, a House concurrent resolution to go to the Senate, requesting a pilot program for veterans. Where was David Booten when the Senate refused to take it up?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
you
too
see what I'm
bad.
saying?
Absolutely.
I want you to know this stuff.
Hasn't been really
because
supportive.
the people need to know this in your district.
Yeah, very interesting.
What do you think of that, Matt? I mean, that's a disgrace.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It is. But I think the way we treat veterans generally in this country is disgraceful. When you look at what's gone on with the VA,
Yes.
it's horrible.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's always been. I mean, going all the way back to World War I, when veterans had to march on Washington just to get what the government had promised them. We had a
Yes.
long history of that in this
Yes.
country. It's terrible.
And you wonder why that is. I mean, is there a population that is so deserving of help, of assistance, of our support, right? I mean,
Right.
they go out and they serve this country. They give their life up. They leave families. I mean, wow, to think that would not be number one on the list, that's not a good thing.
They should get everything they need when they come home.
Absolutely.
Can you, when you go out into your campaign in the different cities there that are in your district, can you mention that Representative Al Baldasaro, because many of them veterans know me, is so disgusted over what David Boot did to the veterans that it's time to go.
Yes, absolutely. Well, now, I mean, you've educated me. Thank you.
Well, that's good.
I wasn't quite, fully aware of all that, but that's great.
Common Core. Jane and I, we fought side by side to try to repeal Common Core. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Common Core, I mean, everybody knows what's going on, and Manchester is in has a real debate going on right now with Common Core, and we know that it's a national attempt to make standards that are uniform throughout the country, and being one that believes that there isn't one student that is the same as any other student, it's doomed to fail.
Right.
Well, it's not really supposed to succeed. Common Core, I believe, is about the assessments, and the assessments are where the big business cronyism comes in, and it's where the control and the information and data mining of the DOE comes into control, because your student at that, your child at that point is nothing but a data point. 400 right now for just one student. So I became aware of Common Core a couple of years ago and started to go out into New Hampshire. I mean, all over New Hampshire. And that was sort of one of my two babies that I was talking about. I probably visited about 20 communities in the state, saying, pay attention, talking to school boards, look what's happening.
Right.
Well, last year, Manchester had the opportunity to have a good discussion, and it did the right thing. Manchester, the school board, a large group of parents that showed up for a meeting said that they were going to say no to Common Core standards. And so now they've had the meetings to try to reform or find standards that were higher standards for kids in Manchester.
Yeah.
Mayor Gatsis was supposedly leading this. And the controversy has come in that the experts that have looked at the standards that Manchester has now put forth are nothing but virtually the same standards that they have.
Right.
So it's like Common Core in a different package.
It's totally Common Core.
One size does not fit all.
Right.
Ever.
I mean, it's a shame.
Why would we do that to our kids?
I don't understand. New Hampshire's what, number 5th or something like that, 6th in
New
the
Hampshire,
country?
yeah, New Hampshire had a very good standing and a very high standing. And mind you, this all comes into play that, again, it's a fixable situation. There were two people that were originally on Common Core, Sandra Stotsky and James Ingram, I think his name was, that were willing to give their time to help any community in the state of New Hampshire revamp their standards for their kids, so that that community not only had control, which is what we want in education. Local control is the best way to try to educate our populace.
I agree.
We know our kids.
Yeah.
Let our teachers who know our kids come
Moms
up with
and dads
it.
know their
Of
kids.
course.
Let them get
Right.
in there.
Absolutely. Get involved.
Right.
And so, we really have been trying to get the word out. Pay attention, folks, because if we cannot do this for our children, that next generation is gone.
Well, the thing is, too, this has been tried, and it's failed over and over again under different names. What was it? Race to the Top? And
Race to the Top is part of Common Core, but before that, No Child Left Behind.
No Child Left Behind,
That's
yeah.
right. The
Yeah.
teachers hated that because...
Race to the Top, right?
Race to the Top was the funds. Yeah, Race to the
Obama,
Top to get
that's
the
right.
money.
Right.
Get that money.
With all unfunded mandates.
Totally,
Oh, yeah.
totally.
Well, the same thing with Common Core. Common Core is an unfunded mandate.
It is an
The
unfunded
state-
mandate.
It's not legislative approved.
Well, some communities did get, some states did get money from participating. It was the carrot that they dangled to states to say, come on, you can get this money. But the truth is once it's into your school system, once it's into your, into how we're going to teach, teachers' recommendations, teachers, how they evaluate teachers is not on how the teacher is with children or working with them in the classroom. How did those kids score on the test?
Right.
So teacher evaluations in Common Core as it goes on down the road becomes much larger percentage-wise evaluated by that assessment.
Right.
That's bad for teachers. Teachers aren't there to say go to number one. Teachers are there to teach. They're to get with the kids and help them learn how to love learning.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do. Teach how to love learning.
Yeah.
You still have kids in the school system.
I do.
You do.
I do.
And, of course, I think the senator that you're running against is out of touch. And like I said, and the reason why I could say this here is I've been up there 8 years. I worked with him he was outstanding as a rep in the House. But he, in the Senate, I don't know what happened. He drank the Kool-Aid, got with the unions or something.
Yeah.
I just don't understand.
Who knows why that happens? But we see it all the time, right?
Right.
I suppose that running for that position, I sit there and I wonder, how can you actually do this and keep altruistic? I really do, because folks don't know it. They see it as the name on the sign, or, they hear the little blurb that you might do on the radio. But running this campaign and being participatory in this process has unveiled things to me that absolutely, I go to bed at night, and when I say my prayers, I pray that I never succumb to what I see going on, the backdoor dealing, the thuggery, the you scratch my back. I've come to learn reaching across the aisle is a good thing. But giving up the ship is not what it was about.
Right.
I agree.
And it's prevalent everywhere. So I assume that, Senator Booton maybe started out someplace, but to say that he is a fiscal conservative is not telling the truth. That is not a true statement. And for him to be putting forth the fact that he will fight for the taxpayer, which is all over his literature. I will fight for you. I don't believe in new taxes. He just can't say that because it's simply not true. Well, I guess he can, but it doesn't make it true.
Right.
Medicaid expansion is going to set us up for a sales tax down the road.
Absolutely.
The money, we have to pay for it somehow.
Yes.
Where's that money going to come from?
And that's what we were saying right from the beginning. We know the government, number one, is insolvent. Let's not pretend, all right? While we're giving millions and billions to everybody else, we have communities in this country that are just falling apart. I mean, look at what happened to Detroit. Detroit was the richest city in the country in its heyday. And now it's totally bankrupt. It's a disaster area. It's a disaster area. And it's because we put in policies that do not make sense, number one, but cannot pay for themselves. There's no way to perpetuate the myth.
They're actually in receivership, aren't they?
Of course,
Detroit?
Totally. I mean, when you see pictures and you see movie, you can go online and you can see documentaries right now being made about what's happened to Detroit. You think, how do those people live in those communities?
Now look at their chief of police. The new chief of police was from Maine. And they had more murders in Detroit, and now all of a sudden their crime is down.
Yeah.
Because he says, just like Maine,
he says,
he told people, arm yourself.
That's right.
Law-abiding citizens, get a gun permit and have guns in your home.
You bet.
The crime has dropped drastically.
And that's the ironic thing. While we can put the poster child, put the child that was, the face of the child on why guns are bad, right? The stats simply don't prove it out. You have more safe communities, and you have less crime, and with people that arm.
Right.
The Second Amendment should never be touched.
An armed society is a polite society.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly.
New Hampshire is clear proof of that. New Hampshire and Vermont.
Vermont. Now, how do you explain Vermont if we're the Wild West, right? If you like guns, woo-hoo, we shouldn't. Yeah, then explain constitutional carry in Vermont, right? The logical argument is being made in politics, I'm finding, is not the fact-based.
Right. It's on
not.
Emotions.
It's totally.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes putting forth false information knowingly, which shocks me.
And you have legislators there that are looking at other states and saying, wow, we got to get rid of the guns. Look at the killings in Detroit, Washington, D.C., Chicago. Chicago? They have 4,000 or 5,000 deaths.
And they have the highest gun law, the highest number of gun laws in our country, right? And they have the most shootings. So it doesn't make sense. If it doesn't add up, folks, don't go with it, because trust yourself. Your common sense will tell you, don't go down that road. And I can tell you that Senator Booton is not a friend for the Second Amendment either. In fact, constitutional carry, which was ready to go with all of the gun groups in New Hampshire ready to sit down and put out constitutional carry together and to support it through the political process, he was the person that stopped that from happening.
Wow.
Yes.
I was shocked at why he did that, because I worked with him quite a few years ago on a bill on the right to protect yourself. So I was shocked. I don't know what's going on with him. That's why I think it's time. He's done his time. Been up there long enough. It's time to move on.
Right.
It seems to me that in New Hampshire, too, that's the most dangerous issue to stray on, is the Second Amendment.
What was it? SB 244.
Yeah,
which was the mental health bill, right?
I have 8 pages of his votes. his voting record for this year. If somebody wanted to see that, all they got to do is do a Google search on the New Hampshire State Senate, then find your senator, and look up David Booton's record. You'll be kind of surprised there on his voting record. I was shocked today when I was looking at it. I just don't understand it. You know, we want people looking out for people, you know, the taxpayers here in New Hampshire.
I'm curious, can you put a percentage on it, a rough percentage on you know?
On the voting record?
I actually couldn't because I didn't get a chance to go through every one of the votes.
Okay.
But you know what? If you look at the fiscal votes, which Americans for Prosperity, like them or not, the only votes that they look at are the fiscal votes. You know, the small government money, taxes, that kind of thing. Fiscal bills, and he got a D.
Wow!
From
no
America.
kidding!
I didn't even know that. I didn't get a chance to look at that.
He did, and it might have been a D minus, but he got a D. From Americans for Prosperity as a Republican. That's go vote Democrat.
Do you know a few years ago under that when he first came in? Because we've already seen this honor and remember flag, I think 3 or 4 times, and we've killed it every time. The first year it came in, he would not talk to me because I voted against it. And I told him that the State Veterans Advisory Committee, which is a statutory committee of the American Legion, VFW, there's like 18 veterans groups that voted against this flag.
Yes.
He would not have respected, you know, they said they didn't support this. And he just went ahead and he didn't talk to me for almost a year. I was shocked. And at the time I was smoking, so I was in the smoking room. He'd sit on the other side. He'd come in and wouldn't say hi, nothing.
Now, in fairness, is it possible he was just intimidated by you? Because don't you have a tendency to look at people intimidatingly?
I do. People get intimidated there. And it's not, like I said, I personally like the guy. But I don't know what's going on with him.
Well, he needs to go.
When you attack veterans, and I'm a retired first sergeant, and I told him straight up, I even wrote a letter against him. I was a veteran way long before I was a Republican. You know, when I served in Desert Storm, be a cold day in hell, I will let any politician step on our veterans.
Absolutely.
You know, so that's why I'm so glad she's stepping up to the plate, because I know, you know, she's been there for the veteran community. You've been there with the fight on Medicaid expansion. You've been there in the fight on Common Core. You've been there in the fight on the First Amendment on the, the abortion clinics.
I think that was the first time I spoke in the well, was that Stand Your Ground.
That's right.
Stand Your Ground bill. You know, I feel very strongly about that because when I was young, I'm an opera singer, and when I was training in New York City or when I had to go live in Vienna, there were long periods of time that as a single woman, I was living by myself in these large cities because you usually have opera in large metropolitan cities, areas. And I told the story in the well I had never spoken about before. I mean, my family knew. But I told the story about I've been mugged 3 times.
Oh, wow.
And I think I only talked about 2 on the floor. But I tell you what, I was just, when I read the bill and I saw that they were trying to roll it back, this past session, I thought I was so lucky to escape.
Twice we had to fight that.
Twice.
Really?
That's right.
We beat it back twice.
Right.
To get out of those situations relatively unharmed 3 times was lucky.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what? At 54 years old, I'm not running anymore. I'm too old to run. And I can't believe that anybody would put a bill in that would tell me I would have to, especially if I have my son with me.
Yeah.
Don't tell me I cannot protect myself if we are in harm's way in a parking lot some way in my car. What, Second Amendment? Hello? Just to me that, again, is insanity. Where does that come from? How could anybody go with that?
That's something I can never figure out there because, we actually fought for, when we tied up the House on the first gun bill. I think it was 288, something like that. But anyway, I was so shocked that the Senate sent another bill over for a study on this here again. Yeah. I don't understand it.
244, you mean?
244, yes.
Well, that was the strangest melding of bills, too, as that whole process was going forward. Basically, it looked like, and the NRA wasn't going to jump in on that bill. They stayed silent on 244. But it was the beginning, the truth of the bill was it was the opening the door to begin a registry to connect mental health with guns. Okay? And when you really looked at it, it wasn't going to do the job that they supposedly wanted it to do because it would affect people in a way that you couldn't draw the line at all. I mean, if you came home and you had post-traumatic stress syndrome, from fighting in the war, are you going toward are you starting to make the decision that somehow you shouldn't be able to have a gun?
That's what would happen. Yeah, that veteran would come home and lose his rights.
Right. It was the beginning of it. It was insidious. But you see, it looked on its surface like, well, it was just a study, and we're going to allow people who have lost their guns a way to get their gun back from the federal government, right? So they were able, what the deal was, and this is why I say sometimes you have to be really careful. You have to read and pay attention to not necessarily what's said on the floor, but what's said behind.
Right.
Because the deal was to try to get that registry thing going undercover, that somehow it was going to be good because those that lost the guns had a conduit through which to get their gun back.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I said, and I still believe it, you want to give the conduit back, and it should happen, then do the bill. And keep it clean. And stop trying to sneak the registry in the back door. Why can't we do that? Why can't we do that? That's sensible. It serves both sides, right?
Right.
But the political process sometimes just doesn't let us do the right thing.
Where was David Booten on that bill? Did
he voted for it.
For that? What a shame. Yeah, I just don't understand him, and what's going on. I mean, I wish Gary Harper was here. I'm sure he'd be going off on it. Gary has been a fighter with us, right?
Oh, yeah.
Tooth and nail.
Oh, yeah.
And I love him like a brother, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he's always got our back. We need to get him back on here, and hopefully he'll be up and running next week for you.
He's got to be able to rotate his cuff.
Yeah,
What can I tell you,
If he can't rotate his cuff, I sent him a dancing video so he can practice.
Oh,
Oh my, oh my.
Oh, my goodness. Well, then.
There he goes.
That's good of you to do that, Al. That's good. You're looking out for him.
Nice guy that I am. Like I said, I love Gary like a brother. And he comes, with a great family, good grandfather, always there with his grandkid.
Yes.
And, and he's outspoken. He's not
Yeah.
a typical politician.
Not at all.
And Jane fits right in there because she's not a politician.
Well,
She'll look you in the eye and tell you the fact.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to hear the truth, don't ask her.
Right. And I think if we could just get, we could take the R and the D away. You really could. You could take them away. If you could just start dealing with people and telling them the truth. Okay, maybe they don't want to hear what you have to say, but you know what? In the end, you win when they know that you didn't lie to them and they know you didn't backstab them or you didn't try to play the finagle the bagel. Just tell them the truth.
Right.
At the end of the day, that's all you have. Just tell the truth. You never have to worry about what you said to who. Right?
Yeah,
Because you
true.
know it's what you believe, it's your truth.
Right.
You don't have to live in that world of helping, A, because you said this to B. Gosh, just tell the
Let
truth.
me ask you a question here. If you vote for a gas tax and you have on your literature, your campaign literature, that you support, you don't support taxes and fees, are you lying? Is that a lie?
Yes. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Maybe if he put in parentheses, starting now.
Yeah,
Well-
maybe that might be what he.
I think what semantics aside, he's trying, I think, to say that it wasn't a broad-based tax. But I don't know if there's a tax that the consumer or the citizen is going to feel quite like the gas tax. And you can't add it all up because you're putting it in your tank. But don't forget, anything that you have delivered that has a transportation
Good point.
is getting it. Anything that you buy at the supermarket is going to have it because that food doesn't mysteriously appear. It's driven.
Right.
So everything keeps paying for that. You have no idea how many cha-chings it is. But for the folks that are seeing, and let's face it, we all know, depending on the state, $3,000 to $5,000 less per household right now in personal wealth, personal income.
Yeah.
$3,000 to $5,000. When that pool shrinks and you don't have an economic alternative to get a way to make it up, jobs being what they are in New Hampshire and everywhere else, right? 23% on a gas tax is a lot to a family.
Right. Not only the
lot.
gas tax. Let's talk about the oil cleanup fund.
Yeah.
It used to be 1 cent.
Yeah.
There's plenty of money. There's a couple $1 million in that fund.
Yeah.
They raised it to 1.25. Okay, now if you have like a tank of 275 gallons, you're talking that's an extra $68.75 that you have to pay.
Yeah.
Okay, for taxes on that oil.
Isn't that something?
It's a shame.
Yeah.
And then I had Representative, what's his name, Tim Horrigan. It's only 25
They
cent
always say
raise.
that. Oh, no.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
pennies, nickels, and dimes add up to dollars.
Oh,
Exactly,
my goodness.
yeah.
You know what was the most horrifying thing? And this might be good for the folks out there that are listening. When you sit as a representative, you also sit in your county delegation. And you have to deal with county financial issues and tax and all those financial stuff that happens, right? You hear about it. And actually Steve Valencourt spoke about this at the AFP event today, that so many, and I saw this, so many representatives will wait until Wednesday to be good on which button they'll push to be pro, good tax for the taxpayer, right?
Yeah.
But then they go to the county and they decimate them. And I can't tell you the number of times I heard from from sitting delegation members of that, not so much in Belknap District, because we did great. We held it down for 2 years. There was no increase in Belknap County because of us the first year of my session, and very little this year. So we held the line.
Yeah.
But how many times we would hear, well, it's only a few cents.
That's right.
Again and again and again
It's
and
for
again.
the children.
Yeah, right.
It's for
Okay.
Let me ask, what type of reception are you getting at going home house to house?
You know what? I think, because I'm new to this relatively, I did some of that too in Belknap, but of course the scope is much louder and much more lively. I'm finding with people, once you can engage them, they're extremely interested to hear about the facts.
Yeah.
The problem is to see and if you can find a way to engage them. But once you engage them, they're very lively,
Yeah.
and love it. They take the information. Oh, okay, I'll look at this, or when you go, oh yeah, okay, I'll take a sign, that kind of thing. I think that we're making headway. I think that a lot of people, as we said in the beginning, just did not and do not know what the voting record is.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bazillion signs out that say David Booton, and God bless him. That's his right. He can get his signs out. And we're working to get our signs up as well. We don't have near the money. I mean, he has.
Yeah.
I'm hearing over $100,000 in the cash chest. So we have that inequity, but that's fine. But the signs don't vote. People vote. And if you can keep making the contact voter to voter and person to person, which is what I'm doing. I mean, I have 3-4 events sometimes a day.
Wow, that's
Wow.
awesome.
Yeah.
You're working
That's
hard.
unbelievable.
Absolutely.
I told you, if
absolutely.
you have an event that you want me to come and speak on behalf with veterans, I mean, I'm the former American Legion state chairman for the Legislative Committee, also for the VFW.
I'd be honored
well
to have
known.
you.
I think people need to know the truth. He only won by 70 votes the last time. He came close.
Wow.
And I wrote a letter and put it out there to all the veterans in the area that what he did to them.
Wow.
So, and it's a shame.
Yeah.
Any chance of debate engaging him in a
Well,
debate?
the ironic thing is that we haven't seen him at anything. He's been truly invisible.
Yeah.
I've gone to the Merrimack County GOP events, the Rockingham County GOP events, the CNHT, which is Citizens New Hampshire Taxpayers. He was not there. So all of these events where everybody else is there, all the other people that are running.
Yeah.
He's just not there.
He
He's
must see the
invisible.
writing on the wall, probably.
Well, you know what? I think the technique, and Mayor Gatsis is his co-campaign manager along with Ray Wazorek.
Okay.
And I have to say that I'm sorry to say that they've been rather rude, which is kind of surprising. I thought
Well,
that.
I am. I'm surprised at that, too.
Oh, my.
Ted Gatz is
Rude
No.
in what way?
Rude to moi, but that's okay. We're a big girl. We can take
Right.
it.
I think they don't realize how tough you are.
Well-
I don't think they know the Jane Cormier that we know on the
They're
fighting on the floor.
they're just very upset that he has a primary.
Yeah.
And it's not personal for me. Not at all. Why would I have any personal animus against
Right.
it? It is a voting record.
I have to,
Yeah.
for Ted Gattis and Ray Wazorek, I have to, because both of them are honorable conservatives, and I have to say for them, they're probably not watching his voting record. And Ted Gattis, who probably is not aware that he voted for a a gas tax.
Perhaps.
You know what I mean? If I were a betting man,
Maybe
I
you
would
can
say
ask.
you probably
Yeah.
don't know. I'd like to ask Ted and Ray Wazorek that question.
Yeah.
But I'd be shocked if they even know that because they're very busy in other
I know
areas.
they're busy. They are busy.
So to give them the benefit of the doubt, because Ted is my friend, I'd be
well,
willing to bet,
I'd be happy to see if you could
know.
interject.
Yeah,
and-
I'd
Yeah,
have to
there
ask
you go.
him.
There you go. Yeah.
We'll see what happens. So what other stuff you've been coming up with on the campaign trail that people are bringing up to you?
Let's see. We're trying to go outside the box. We've been doing a lot of meet and greets. That's kind of inside the box.
Right.
But we're going to be doing some opera meet and greets. So I get to use all of my skill set.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we'll do a couple of fun, people that enjoy opera. I go in and we sing some, and we have some people come in and we talk politics. So opera and politics, who thought that would ever go together?
You ain't kidding.
Mama. That's the different one. So
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, we're having fun with that. So we're doing that. I'm doing an awful lot of social media. I've got a great team for social media. I think I have the best team in the state for social media.
If your team is better than his team, then that will help a lot. I mean, that's a big key nowadays. Is social media.
Social media we have is excellent, and
that's good.
Yeah,
I'm a true believer in Facebook.
Yep.
I use Facebook for advertising.
Yep.
I target my own district, Londonderry. When it comes to elections, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
You know, and I happen to be a geek, but my wife is a bigger geek.
Is she?
She has a computer science degree.
Good for her.
She's a GIS administrator.
Oh my!
So she's very talented in these areas.
Wow.
And I sit from my seat at the State House and I tweet. And within seconds, my constituents know what a vote is.
Yeah, that's great.
You know, so
I do like that.
Yeah.
I do like that, and voters. I think voters like that too because you're with them. I think that we're seeing that an awful lot too. Is that voters feel so isolated and insulated away from what happens, you know, in those 24 seats in the Senate. Very important policy and lawmaking group. 24 people really decide.
Right.
Where we're going as a state. And I don't know that any of them really feel part of that process. And I think that if I had one, other than, of course, voting on proper legislation, one big thing would be that I would keep in touch with people. I like to communicate anyway. I'm a fairly good writer. I think that if I got in there, I would really like to make the promise that we would have constant contact with constituents. Let them know what's coming down the pike, let them know what the discussion is. And I'm not sure that people really like that idea too much, because that can actually be if you're a backdoor kind of person, that can be a scary thing that we're going to let people know what's coming down the pike.
Accountability is a scary word for some people.
Well, you ain't kidding, though. You know what's a shame is a lot of people don't want them to know.
Right.
You know, that's why they get mad, because I'm one of the tri-chairs of the House Republican Alliance, and I've been with which is the HRA, and I've been with the HRA now for 8 years. We call the roll calls. We put them on record. We want them held accountable. The old boy network, the old Republicans and Democrats do not like them to know how they voted.
Right. Yeah.
Because otherwise, who would have known what all the taxes and fees that have been in the state throughout the years?
That's right. You're right.
The gas tax. Every time we come right back to the gas tax, because I think about the trucks, the milk, the bread, the eggs, the ricochet effect there that has to do with costs going up.
Absolutely.
On the working people. If you got deep pockets, you don't care.
Yeah.
You don't care. No big deal. 4.2 cents?
Yeah.
Nah.
Right.
But you got a family going from paycheck to paycheck. That makes a difference.
Yes.
That's why it's important for them to get out and vote for you, Jane.
Yeah, well, thank you. I hope they do get out and vote for me. But we can just keep talking.
Oh, without a doubt.
And we'll keep putting it out there that wake up, woo.
Right.
Now, this here, your station now, what does it play? I mean, what's the...
Well, people, I mean, on MPTS, people in Manchester, Hooksett, et cetera. But, of course, people watch us online, too, from all over the place. So,
yes. A good portion of our constituency is able to see
great.
this.
Yeah, because I know in my town, maybe I need to probably start getting this show in Londonderry, because I don't get this show.
Yeah.
That's why I have my own show there,
to
make sure that my constituents know the truth.
That's right. And that's what more can you do as a public servant?
That's right.
What more can you do than that?
Making $100 a year.
Yeah.
And to make a difference because you want to serve your community.
Well, you know what? And let me ask you, why does a senator, and I don't say this just about Senator Booten, but in general, for $100 a year, to have treasure chests over $100,000 or more?
Yeah, I don't understand that.
Wow.
I don't know why. Yeah, I don't understand that.
Sounds
why?
like he's got some big donors.
Yeah, I mean, why would he have that much money as a state senator?
That might explain some
for
of those
$100,
votes.
right?
I think. Well, actually, when you look at the donor list and you look at the voting record, they match right up.
Yeah.
Wow.
Makes
Do they?
perfect sense,
Okay.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. Okay. See, I didn't know that. I never looked at it. See, I don't raise money. I mean, I fund my own campaign.
Yes.
I
did
try
too
my damn. That way, I owe nobody nothing.
Right.
So if I make a vote, my vote goes for the good of the people.
Absolutely.
The working people.
We in the first race that I took on an incumbent that was really rather left, and decided that we were going to vote. I paid for that totally myself, and I was told that we were going to get washed because I was too right, or I was too whatever. We did essentially the same idea, just knock on as many doors as we can and get out there. And you know what? We won by 68% of the vote.
That's awesome.
So I do not believe necessarily the same old dialogue that goes along that, you need to either have a lot of experience or you need to have a lot of money, because we had neither, and we did really well, and I feel good about my 2 years in the House. I feel like
it can be done. Look what happened to Eric Cantor.
Yeah,
I mean,
wow.
And no one imagined that, but
no.
wow.
Well, I think that's going to happen to Senator David Booton. This is definitely going to open his eyes up, and he's going to realize that he should have took care of his constituents. He should have taken care of the veteran community instead of stepping all over them. I'm going to tell you right now, she came in. Ain't nobody was going to stop her. She was on a mission looking out for her constituents and fought for them.
Yeah.
I know my first term, they try to silence me, the old boy network. I said, my constituents sent me here.
Yeah.
I did the same thing you did, went right to that well, and I spoke on behalf to try to stop taxes and fees.
Yeah, and it worked out okay.
Oh, yeah, it did.
Absolutely.
It did. My first 4 years, I was in a minority.
Yeah.
So when I was in a
Tough.
majority for 2 years, I knew how it was
Yeah.
to make sure that taxes and fees.
Yeah.
And you fit right in. You were there.
Yeah.
So I'm sure your Hooksett and all your other towns are going to love to have somebody like
Yeah,
you.
well, we know I'll fight. I mean, I am a fighter, and especially on pledges and on votes that I espouse to be fair and open. You bet your bottom dollar I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna stick to it.
I tell you, I'm shocked he got a D in America's for Prosperity.
Yeah, he did.
Wow, and he's touting he's a conservative?
He's touting that he's a fighter for the taxpayer.
Let me ask you, the people in your district, they just don't care? They don't watch it? They don't look at the votes?
I don't know that they don't look at the votes. I think really they're just doing their thing. They're going through their life. They're paying their bills. They're trying to, figure out how to get through everything. I mean, really, it's hard for folks that are engaged in trying to, like you said, live their life, go paycheck to paycheck, to pay attention to what's happening out there.
How do you think they're going to handle here next year when companies start dropping them in insurance and they say, go to Medicaid expansion or go to the
They'll wake up.
ACA there with
Obamacare.
Yeah, affordable,
you never know. I mean, I think maybe they are waking up now, and we will see in 214 how 216 goes.
Right.
Statewide and federal, I think.
There's no doubt in my mind, Matt. She's getting the message out there.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it. Speaking of which, before we run out of time, you should mention how people find you online. JaneCormier.org.
That's simple. We have a great website, and it's all contact information. I have lots of media on that site, different, speeches, all that kind of stuff, how they can contact me. So, JaneCormier.org.
Okay, very good. Do you have any events coming up that you want to mention? Because you've been...
Oh my goodness, I think. I'll be at the open house at my goodness,
Well,
I'm blank now.
we put her on the spot.
Yeah, you did. I should have brought it.
Yeah.
There is a lot coming up.
Yeah, she told me earlier before that she had left her calendar in the car there.
Yeah.
And,
that's all right. It's probably on your website.
It's on your website, right?
Website. Absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
I also want you to take these here. These are some veterans bills that I want you to look in when you talk to your community on how David Booton there stuck it to them.
I will
just to give you an idea.
Thank you for the info.
Yeah.
Al, how do people find you online? Because you're a social media guy.
I'm an easy guy. I actually live on the Londonderry-Manchester line, on the Manchester line. But I'm www.albaldasaro.com. Or you call me at home, 425-6997. Stop by my house on Hall Road in Londonderry.
Mamma mia.
I have people that come by all the time while I'm out working in my yard and asking questions.
Wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
Good for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Good. That's very good. Very good. All right. Well, we're about out of time, but Jane.
Can I send my love to Gary? Gary, I hope you feel better, brother.
Yes, Gary.
If he's watching.
He's got to rotate that cuff.
That's right.
I don't know how long he's down for, but we'll see. So I have no idea what's planned for next week. Or
if he can't make it, I'll be more than happy to come in and help him out.
Yeah, you're a pro.
Gary's just like me. He's not a politician.
Not a pro.
He's not. He is. He's not a politician. He'll tell you like it is.
That's right.
That's why I respect that man. And Jane, that's why you're going to be the next senator there.
Well, thank you.
All right.
We'll do our best.
Awesome. Well, this has been a lot of fun. And
Thank you.
thanks, everybody.
Jane.
Feel better, Gary. And we'll talk at you later. Bye-bye.